You chase many things, yet your mind remains restless. You gather goals, desires, ambitions, and still feel a quiet tension beneath it all, as if something essential refuses to fall into place. The problem is not that you want too much. The problem is that your wanting is tangled with resistance. You grip too tightly, you fear too quickly, and you measure outcomes before they have time to unfold. Look closely at your mind when you desire something. It does not simply wish. It clings, it imagines the result, then immediately worries about losing it. It calculates, doubts, compares, and rushes. In doing so, it disturbs its own clarity. A disturbed mind cannot create steady action, and without steady action, even the best intentions collapse into inconsistency. Calmness is not weakness. It is control in its purest form. When your mind is still, your perception sharpens. You begin to see what is within your power and what is not. This distinction changes everything. Most people exhaust themselves trying to command outcomes that do not belong to them. Other people's opinions, timing, luck, and circumstances. They burn energy on what cannot be held and neglect what can. What belongs to you is simple: your thoughts, your choices, your effort, and your response. Everything else moves according to forces larger than your will. When you accept this without resistance, a strange thing happens. The tension begins to dissolve. You stop fighting the current and instead learn how to move with precision within it. To relax your mind, you must first stop arguing with reality. The moment you demand that things must happen in a certain way, you create conflict. You set yourself against the natural order of events. But when you say, "Let me do what I can," and accept what I cannot control, you regain your balance. This is not surrender. It is alignment. From this alignment, your actions become cleaner. You are no longer driven by panic or desperation, but by intention. And intention, when repeated with discipline, becomes power. Consider how often your thoughts sabotage your progress. You begin with excitement, then your mind whispers, "What if it fails?" You hesitate, you delay, you lose momentum. The opportunity does not vanish. You release it, not because you lacked ability, but because you lacked steadiness. A calm mind does not eliminate effort. It refines it. When you act without internal chaos, your energy is not wasted. Each step becomes deliberate. Each decision carries weight. You do not rush blindly, nor do you freeze in doubt. You move forward, knowing that outcomes are shaped by consistency, not intensity. Manifestation is often misunderstood. It is not a matter of wishing harder or imagining endlessly. It is the result of harmony between thought and action. If your thoughts are scattered, your actions will be inconsistent. If your actions are inconsistent, your results will reflect that disorder. To manifest what you want, your inner world must become stable. Stability creates focus. Focus creates discipline. Discipline creates progress. And progress, over time, brings results that appear almost inevitable. But stability requires letting go of certain habits. You must release the need for immediate validation. You must stop seeking reassurance from others. You must resist the urge to compare your path with someone else's. These habits fragment your attention. They weaken your resolve. Instead, return to yourself. Ask, "What can I do today that is within my control?" Then, do it fully, without distraction. Not for applause, not for recognition, but because it is your responsibility. When you detach from the outcome, you paradoxically increase your chances of achieving it. This is because your actions become purer. You are no longer acting out of fear or greed, but out of clarity. And clarity removes hesitation. Think of the archer. If his mind is consumed by the fear of missing, his hands will tremble. If he obsesses over the result, his focus breaks. But if he attends only to his posture, his breath, and his aim, the arrow flies true. The target is struck not because he forced it, but because he allowed his skill to express itself without interference. Your life follows the same principle. You cannot force outcomes, but you can refine your input. You cannot guarantee results, but you can eliminate distractions that weaken your effort. Relaxation is not idleness. It is the absence of unnecessary tension. You can work tirelessly and still be relaxed if your mind is not burdened by fear and resistance. In fact, the most effective work comes from this state. When you are calm, your energy flows uninterrupted. You think clearly. You act decisively. You recover quickly from setbacks. Setbacks, too, must be understood differently. They are not signs that you should stop. They are signals that something needs adjustment. If you react emotionally, you lose the lesson. But if you remain composed, you extract value from every difficulty. Every obstacle contains instruction. Every delay tests your patience. Every failure strengthens your resilience, if you allow it. But if you resist, complain, or blame, you turn these opportunities into burdens. Your mind must become a place of order. Not rigid, but disciplined. Not empty, but intentional. You must observe your thoughts without immediately believing them. Many of your thoughts are reactions, not truths. They arise from habit, fear, or conditioning. If you follow them blindly, you surrender your control. Pause, question them. Ask, is this thought useful? Does it move me forward? If not, release it. Replace it with one that serves your purpose. Over time, this practice reshapes your thinking. You become less reactive, more deliberate. This is how you build inner authority. Not by dominating others, but by mastering yourself. Desire itself is not the enemy. Uncontrolled desire is. When your desires are guided by reason, they become goals. When they are driven by impulse, they become distractions. You must learn to distinguish between what is worth pursuing and what only appears attractive in the moment. Clarity of desire simplifies your path. You no longer chase everything. You choose carefully, and once you choose, you commit fully. Commitment requires patience. You cannot expect immediate transformation. Growth is gradual. Results accumulate quietly before they become visible. If you abandon your efforts too soon, you interrupt this process. Trust the process, but do not become passive. Continue to act. Continue to refine. Continue to improve. Let time do its part, while you do yours. There will be moments when your mind becomes restless again. This is natural. You are not eliminating disturbance forever. You are learning how to return to calmness more quickly each time. The difference between a disciplined mind and an undisciplined one is not the absence of chaos, but the speed of recovery. When anxiety rises, do not fight it aggressively. Observe it. Understand that it is temporary. Breathe. Bring your attention back to what you can control in that moment. This simple act weakens its hold over you. Presence is your anchor. When you focus on the present, you reduce unnecessary suffering. Most of your stress comes from imagining the future or replaying the past. But neither can be changed directly. Only your current action has real influence. If you act well now, the future adjusts accordingly. If you learn from the past without dwelling on it, you improve your present decisions. Awareness, action, adjustment. Do not underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. Grand plans often fail because they rely on bursts of motivation. But small actions, repeated daily, build momentum that does not depend on mood. When your mind is relaxed, you are more likely to sustain these actions. You are not overwhelmed by the magnitude of your goals. You simply focus on the next step, and step by step, you move forward. You may not notice the change immediately, but over time, your thinking becomes clearer. Your emotions become more stable. Your actions become more effective. And the things you once struggled to attain begin to appear within reach. It will not feel like magic. It will feel natural. As if your life is aligning with your effort. This is the quiet power of a disciplined mind. It does not shout. It does not rush. It does not seek constant validation. It works steadily, patiently, and without unnecessary resistance. In this state, you become difficult to disturb. External events lose their ability to shake you deeply. You remain focused on your path, regardless of circumstances. And when challenges arise, as they always will, you meet them with composure. Not because they are easy, but because you are prepared. Preparation is not only physical, it is mental. You train your mind to remain steady under pressure. You practice letting go of what you cannot control. You reinforce your commitment to what you can. This training happens daily, in small moments. When something irritates you, you choose patience. When something tempts you away from your goals, you choose discipline. When something discourages you, you choose persistence. These choices shape your character, and your character shapes your life. Eventually, you realize that what you once called manifestation is simply the result of alignment. Your thoughts, actions, and values are no longer in conflict. They move together in the same direction. This alignment creates a sense of ease. Not because life becomes simple, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. A divided mind hesitates. An aligned mind moves forward. So relax your mind, not by escaping effort, but by removing unnecessary resistance. Let go of what you cannot control. Focus on what you can. Act with clarity. Persist with patience. Everything you seek becomes more attainable when you stop working against yourself. What you often overlook is how much of your struggle is created not by circumstances, but by interpretation. Two people can face the same situation, yet one remains steady while the other collapses under its weight. The difference lies in the judgment they assign to the event. If you label something as unbearable, your mind reacts accordingly. If you see it as manageable, even instructive, your response changes. This is where your power quietly resides, in your ability to interpret without distortion. When you remove exaggeration, when you strip events of unnecessary drama, you begin to see things as they are. And reality, when seen clearly, is rarely as overwhelming as your fears suggest. Your mind tends to magnify what it does not control. It imagines worst outcomes, stretches possibilities into certainties, and then reacts to those imagined scenarios as if they were real. This creates a cycle of anxiety that feeds itself. To break this cycle, you must discipline your imagination. Use it with intention, not as a tool for fear, but as a guide for preparation. If you consider what might go wrong, do so calmly, and then ask yourself what you would do in response. This transforms fear into readiness. Instead of being paralyzed, you become equipped. Preparation strengthens confidence, but it must be balanced with acceptance. You can prepare for many outcomes, but you cannot predict them all. At some point, you must trust your ability to respond in the moment. This trust is built through repeated action, through facing difficulty and realizing that you can endure more than you once believed. Endurance is not only physical, it is the capacity to remain composed when things do not go your way. It is the ability to continue acting with purpose, even when results are delayed. It is the refusal to let temporary discomfort dictate permanent decisions. Most people abandon their path, not because it is impossible, but because it becomes uncomfortable. They expect progress to feel rewarding at every step, but growth often feels like strain. It demands effort without immediate return. It tests your patience, your discipline, your belief in your direction. If you depend on constant motivation, you will falter. Motivation fluctuates. It rises and falls with your mood, your environment, and your circumstances. Discipline, however, is steady. It does not ask how you feel. It asks what must be done. When your mind is relaxed, discipline becomes easier to maintain. You are not burdened by emotional resistance. You do not waste energy debating whether to act. You simply act because you have decided that it is necessary. Decision is a powerful force. Once you decide fully, without hesitation, you remove countless distractions. Doubt loses its influence. Procrastination weakens. You move with direction. But decision requires clarity, and clarity requires stillness. A restless mind cannot decide effectively. It jumps between options, overthinks possibilities, and delays commitment. This is why relaxation is not optional. It is essential. In stillness, your priorities become visible. You begin to see what truly matters and what does not. You stop confusing urgency with importance. You recognize that many things that demand your attention are not worthy of it. Your attention is limited. Where you place it determines the quality of your life. If you scatter it across trivial concerns, you weaken your ability to focus on meaningful pursuits. But if you guard it carefully, directing it toward what aligns with your goals, you strengthen your progress. Guarding your attention requires discipline in what you consume, what you engage with, and what you allow to influence your thoughts. Not every opinion deserves consideration. Not every opportunity deserves pursuit. You must filter deliberately. This filtering is not about isolation, but about selectivity. You choose what serves your growth and discard what does not. Over time, this creates a cleaner mental environment. One that supports your intentions rather than undermines them. A clean mental environment leads to clearer action. You no longer act out of confusion or impulse. You act with purpose. And purposeful action, repeated consistently, produces results that appear almost inevitable. Yet even as you progress, you must remain cautious of attachment. Success can create as much disturbance as failure if you cling to it. When you become dependent on a certain outcome, you introduce fear. The fear of losing it. This fear can disrupt your balance. It can make you overly cautious, hesitant to take risks, unwilling to adapt. To maintain your steadiness, you must treat success the same way you treat failure. With composure, appreciate it, but do not depend on it. Learn from it, but do not define yourself by it. Continue your efforts, not because you have achieved something, but because your work is not yet complete. This perspective keeps you grounded. It prevents complacency and reduces anxiety. You remain focused on your actions, not on preserving an image or maintaining a result. In this way, your identity becomes tied not to outcomes, but to principles. You define yourself by how you think, how you act, and how you respond. This creates a stability that external circumstances cannot easily shake. Your principles become your anchor. When decisions are difficult, you return to them. When emotions are intense, you rely on them. They guide you when clarity fades. But principles must be practiced, not merely understood. It is easy to agree with discipline, patience, and control in theory. It is much harder to apply them in moments of stress, temptation, or frustration. Practice happens in the ordinary moments of your day, when you wake up and choose to begin your work instead of delaying, when you encounter resistance and continue instead of quitting, when you feel irritation and choose calmness instead of reaction. These moments may seem small, but they accumulate. They shape your habits, and your habits shape your life. Habits reduce the need for constant decision-making. When something becomes habitual, it requires less effort to maintain. This frees your mind to focus on more complex challenges. To build effective habits, you must start with simplicity. Do not overwhelm yourself with too many changes at once. Choose a few actions that align with your goals and repeat them consistently. Over time, they become part of your routine. Consistency matters more than intensity. A small action performed daily is more powerful than a large effort performed occasionally. It builds momentum that sustains itself. Momentum creates confidence. As you see yourself following through, your belief in your ability strengthens. This belief reduces hesitation and increases your willingness to take on greater challenges. Challenges are necessary. Without them, growth stagnates. But you must approach them with the right mindset. Do not seek challenges to prove something to others. Seek them to refine yourself. Each challenge reveals something about your strengths and weaknesses. It shows where you are prepared and where you need improvement. If you approach it with curiosity rather than fear, you gain more from the experience. Fear often arises from uncertainty. You fear what you do not understand or cannot control. But as you expose yourself to challenges, your familiarity increases. What once seemed intimidating becomes manageable. This is how confidence is built, not through avoidance, but through engagement. Engagement requires presence. When you are fully present, you are not distracted by past failures or future worries. You are focused on the task at hand. This focus improves your performance and reduces unnecessary stress. Presence also enhances your awareness. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking and behavior. You recognize when you are becoming distracted, when you are losing focus, when you are reacting emotionally. This awareness allows you to adjust in real time. Instead of realizing your mistakes afterward, you correct them as they occur. This accelerates your improvement. Improvement is not linear. There will be periods of progress and periods of stagnation. There will be moments when you feel confident and moments when you doubt yourself. This fluctuation is natural. What matters is your response to it. If you become discouraged during slow periods, you may stop. But if you remain steady, continuing your efforts, regardless of immediate results, you maintain your trajectory. Trajectory is more important than speed. Moving in the right direction, even slowly, leads to meaningful change. Moving quickly in the wrong direction leads to regret. To maintain your direction, you must periodically reflect. Not obsessively, but thoughtfully. Ask yourself whether your actions align with your intentions. If they do not, adjust. Adjustment is a sign of strength, not weakness. It shows that you are attentive and willing to improve. Rigidly sticking to ineffective methods does not demonstrate discipline. It demonstrates stubbornness. Balance is required. You must be firm in your principles, but flexible in your methods. This allows you to adapt without losing your foundation. As you continue this process, you will notice a shift. Your mind becomes less reactive. Your emotions become more stable. Your actions become more deliberate. You begin to experience a sense of control. Not over external events, but over yourself. And this self-control creates a quiet confidence that does not depend on circumstances. With this confidence, you approach your goals differently. You no longer chase them with desperation. You move toward them with patience and clarity. This change in approach often produces better results. When you are not desperate, you make better decisions. You take calculated risks instead of reckless ones. You persist without forcing. Forcing creates resistance. It leads to frustration when things do not go as planned. But when you act with patience, you allow space for adjustment. You remain open to new possibilities. Openness is important. Sometimes, what you initially desire is not what ultimately serves you best. If you are too rigid, you may miss better opportunities. But if you remain attentive, you can recognize and adapt to them. Adaptation does not mean abandoning your goals. It means refining your path. It means being willing to change your approach while maintaining your direction. This flexibility increases your chances of success. It allows you to navigate obstacles rather than being stopped by them. Obstacles are inevitable. They are part of any meaningful pursuit. But they are not barriers unless you treat them as such. They can be used as stepping stones, each one strengthening your ability to continue. Your perception of obstacles determines their impact. If you see them as unfair interruptions, you become frustrated. If you see them as necessary challenges, you become stronger. Strength is not built in comfort, it is built in resistance. Each difficulty you face and overcome increases your capacity. Capacity is what allows you to handle greater opportunities. Without it, success can overwhelm you. But with it, you can sustain and expand what you achieve. As your capacity grows, your vision can expand as well. You begin to see possibilities that once seemed out of reach. Not because they have changed, but because you have. This is the quiet transformation that occurs when you align your mind and actions. You do not become someone entirely new. You become a more refined version of yourself. Refinement is an ongoing process. There is no final point where you can stop. There will always be areas to improve, habits to strengthen, thoughts to clarify. This should not discourage you. It should free you from the pressure of perfection. You are not required to be flawless. You are required to be consistent. Consistency, guided by clarity and supported by discipline, leads to results that may appear extraordinary to others. But to you, they will feel like the natural outcome of your efforts. And through it all, your mind remains your greatest tool. When it is relaxed, focused, and disciplined, it supports everything you do. When it is restless, distracted, and reactive, it undermines even your best intentions. So you return to it again and again. You observe it, train it, refine it, not with force, but with patience, not with frustration, but with persistence. And as you do, the distance between what you desire and what you experience begins to close.